the smartest real estate investors or investors in general don't use their own capital if they can, right? Not saying that you won't ever be in a situation where you invest your own capital, but you build it without using your own capital as much as you possibly can. What I always tell people is good deals find money. And if you want to continually grow, building a real estate investment business, you always need access to capital.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Aligned, your premier real estate solution. Good morning, everybody. Again, Dave Finale here, along with Brandon Brittingham, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. And the best way to describe Brandon is a real freaking great human being. I've had the opportunity to watch Brandon speak on stage. I've spoken to him off stage, and just, not very unassuming, really nice guy, human being. Used to be the suit and tie guy, not any longer. He's been a realtor, a top agent, an investor, has transitioned from growing a real estate agent business to a real estate investor business to a mega juggernaut of a business in Maryland and Virginia. And, just an overall sweetheart of a man. I recently had another opportunity to watch him at another great event, Spring Benson's event, spring break in Utah, and was able to meet great people out there and talk to Brandon again. Brandon, thanks so much for coming on today.
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you having me.
So, man, you've been around a while. You've really grown, man. I really admire what you've done. Tell us, though. I mean, you didn't. I told a little bit about where you came from, but if you would tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, where you started. Everybody has trials and tribulations, and we've heard from greats such as yourself, like Chet Black and Tom Ferry and Bill Pipes and a lot of other people. I can name names throughout everything, even Spring, right? Tell us about your story, your journey to get to here today.
What you see on social media is you see the finished product, and no one is out there just repeatedly sharing and talking about their losses, right? So
right.
I got in real estate honestly just to represent myself on investment deals, and learned pretty quickly that I think I could be really good at being an agent. And because the first couple of pieces of property that I tried to buy, I had a very negative experience with real estate agents. And so then I went and got my license, and I honestly only ever wanted to represent myself on my own deals. But then when I realized that I actually could be good as an agent, I started learning and becoming an agent. And then that transitioned into being a real estate, team leader. And that's really it. I mean, I kind of got into it by accident because I really got into it from a standpoint of just wanting to represent myself on my own deals.
I see that a lot in new agents coming into the business. They want to be investors, but I see also a lot of them fail. Were you already an investor when you started on this journey?
So I had come from a business that I had built a business when I was really young, and I had sold it. So I'd done really, really well. So I'd understood, especially for my age. So I'd understood a lot of things about business and running a business. And not to paint everybody with the same brush, but one of the things that I learned pretty quick is, at least my experience, a lot of agents did not know how to run a business.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I saw kind of initially when I got into real estate, right? And so the other side of that was I had been in the fashion industry. I had a couple of different stores. One of the stores I had was I had high-end suits where people would come in and get tailored up, and we'd send their measurements to Italy and custom, build them a suit. And the guys who spent the most money in my store were real estate investors. And so that's what attracted me to invest in real estate, right? Like that was one of the things that kind of piqued my interest and got me interested in the investment side of the game.
Mhm.
So when ironically, I thought when I got my license, I would enter into this world where there was a ton of people who invested in real estate on the license side, and there wasn't. Which surprised me is it was actually the opposite. A lot of them did not invest in real estate at all. So that was another thing that really intrigued me. But I got into it under the guise and honestly, really just to invest in real estate. That was my only purpose of why I got my license.
Investing has a lot to do with guts. It has a lot to do with there's fear involved in it. But one of the things I saw recently was that you've said that you'll never have enough money if you're serious about investing. Talk to me a little bit about that, because one of the things that I've seen personally for me and for a lot of people is, well, they want to invest, but they don't think they've got the money to do it, right? As a realtor, real estate agents aside, look, there's a lot of different things that we do and a lot of different things that we learn, and we think we can do this and we should be doing it, but we don't have the money to do it. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest misnomers and misconceptions in real estate is that you have to have a ton of money to get into real estate investing. And if you think about this, all of us as real estate investors, a lot of times had to start with no money.
Right.
So it's one of the biggest misconceptions of if you actually learn how to do it and you play the game right, very seldom times do you ever have your money in a deal. You're leveraging debt, you're doing different things. You're doing things like the BRRRR strategy, using other people's money, using banks' money. What I always tell people is good deals find money. And if you want to continually grow, building a real estate investment business, you always need access to capital. So, kind of to your point earlier, what I always tell people is you can never have enough access to money and capital if you want to build an investment business, because it is capital intensive. That is true, but that does not mean the capital has to become out of your pocket. In fact, the smartest real estate investors or investors in general don't use their own capital if they can, right? Not saying that you won't ever be in a situation where you invest your own capital, but you build it without using your own capital as much as you possibly can.
What's the process? If I find, a two-family, or I want to fix and flip something, I don't think I have enough money. I want to do this. And I know you've got strategic funding to go to. How does that work?
So a couple things, right? Back to my statement earlier, good deals always find money. So let's just say that, if you can find a deal that makes sense, an investor will always buy it or partner with you, or you can always get the money for it. I think that is the biggest thing that people don't understand or have a misconception on. So if you can go find a property that has equity in it or that cash flows from a rental, if you don't have all the money, you can go to an investor or somebody with money in the beginning and say, hey, partner up on me with this deal, JV with me in this deal, or whatever. Or what I used to do is I would just say, I knew you, Dave, and you're in my community, and I found a flip and I don't have the money to do it. I'll go to you and say, hey, Dave, I want to buy this flip. Here's all the stuff with it. I will secure you against the mortgage. Do you know what I mean? If you loan me the money, I'll secure you against the mortgage and I'll pay you 14% and 2 points. And when I flip it, you'll get paid back. Now, there's some legalese in different states of how you got to do this, but I'm giving this to you from a 30,000 foot view.
Right.
When I was in my early 20s, this is what I used to do. And so, yeah, is 14% money expensive? Is 2 points expensive? Right. Yes. But I was flipping the property and making $40,000 to $60,000 in my early 20s. I didn't give a shit what I paid for the money because I was still making 40 to 60 grand. So, now there's things like hedge fund money that's out there. And if you're watching this and you want to get introduced to something like that, I can help you do it. But, the thing about it is it's an excuse saying that I don't have the money, because that's bullshit. You don't have to have it. And here's the thing is we forget how ingenious we were when we didn't have money, right? Because when I didn't have money, it forced me to figure out how to get into a deal without money. Well, I never changed that. Do you know what I mean? I just got better at it, right? but I didn't change the way that I underwrote or looked at a deal. I still look at it the same way of I want to get in and out of real estate deal every single time that I can without using my own money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So,
It's funny. I've been involved in a lot of different things over my lifetime, including owning a brokerage and working with a family investment arm, right? And my dad, who started it, and the funny thing is that he never ran a number, right?
right.
His numbers were this. Okay, I got to put this much down. This is what my payment's going to be, and the rent's going to be this. Does it equal and even out so it doesn't take any money out of my pocket? Does it pay for itself? That's how we ran numbers.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that is really the simplest way to do it. And he knew over time, if he held on to it, because he was never going to sell anything anyway, he never did, he was going to make money on it. Right.
Yeah.
Simple. Is that the simplest way to do it, or are there other simple ways to do it?
So right now, if you look at buying a rental and if you run a DSCR model, so this is what most of your banks are going to look at, hedge funds, whatever the case is, and that is a debt service coverage ratio.
Yep.
So kind of two very easy things to look at. In some parts of the country, this is still possible, and some it's not. But if you can meet the 1% rule, the rentals typically always going to pencil. So for instance, if you can buy a house for $300,000 and it rents for $3,000 a month, it typically is going to pencil on a DSCR. And what a DSCR is that if you go to get debt against the property, the bank is going to want you to be at a 1.1 or a 1.2. What that means is you're either 10 to 20% above your debt service coverage and all your expenses on the property. So if all of your expenses are $1,000, the bank's going to want your rent to be $1,100 or $1,200. So in most cases, that's how you should underwrite a rental property. Does it meet the 1% rule? If not, is it a 1.1 or a 1.2 on DSCR? Now, if it doesn't meet the 1% rule, then typically that means you got to put more money down on it for it to meet the DSCR rules. But in my opinion, you should never buy a rental property that doesn't cash flow, even if it's a small amount.
Right.
Now, if you buy something that breaks even and you're in real estate because you're betting the area is going to have a ton of appreciation, or because you're doing it as a tax play, that makes sense also, as long as you have some liquid if something goes wrong, right? But don't do it just to do it and not understand the math, because that's how you get your ass in trouble.
We're talking about investing here, and Brandon, talk to me about you and what you see in others as far as the fear factor of getting into investing. Say, holy shit, I'm going to buy this property, or I'm going to buy this property and fix it, and then I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to buy it and it's going to rent. Am I going to be able to pay for it? And there's a lot of other fears. Talk to me. How did that affect you? And where does it take? Does the fear factor always live, or does it go away and you just get callous to it?
No, I mean, I don't think it ever goes away, but I think that you get a level of comfortability. And I think for, agents out there that are scared to do it, it's an identity crisis issue, right? They're so tied to, I know how to sell a house. You know what I mean? I know how to be a top producer, but I don't know how to be an investor. And I think that's bullshit, because you go and find a property for an investor, you tell them what to pay for it, you tell them all this stuff, you basically underwrite the deal for them. You just don't do the financial side of it, which is actually the easiest part to learn because it's based on math, right? Yeah. So it's just math. It's not difficult. All you got to do is understand the math, which is not hard. Like, dude, I didn't graduate from high school and I didn't go to college. So it's not like I'm a fucking calculus genius or something crazy. Like, I just understand the math, and the math is very simple to understand. But what I think is that it's the fear of the unknown. And then also you're going to always just sink back to what you're comfortable with, which is if you're in real estate, you can go sell another house or houses to generate an income. But, just to be real with you, like that if you don't think about and get on the investment side, then you always have to trade time for money for the rest of your life. You always have to go sell another house. And that might sound cool, right now.
Right.
But when I got my license in 2008, the worst recession this country has ever seen, and you have people that have been in real estate for 20 and 30 years going bankrupt, and they had no assets and they had no plan B. And that's what, I'm really passionate about with our industry is, there you can make a really good living and make a ton of money selling real estate. But yet it's almost like, the analogy that I'll give you, it's almost like pro athletes that don't have financial literacy, right? It's like they never had money, then they got money and they weren't smart with their money. So they end up losing it. And it's like, if you just get a little bit of financial literacy and you get on the investment side, you can change everything. And none of this is really, really difficult. It's just being willing to take the time to learn it and implement it and understand the math. That's really all that it is.
So it took you, I mean, you got into the real estate business because you wanted to be an investor and represent yourself. And then what you wound up doing was growing a team, growing a business, growing this whole thing. And, you still have the team, you still have everything. You've transitioned over to EXP. A lot of people look at this and say, wow, look what he did and everything else. And I just talked about fear, right? How did you, I mean, there's a lot of things that you did. There's a lot of moving parts, right? Was there ever a thought process of where you were going from when you started? And were you afraid of messing it up? And what was the thought process as you started building all of this empire and everything you have?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, whether this is, to a fault, I'm probably the eternal optimist. I think that there's been many situations where the data said not to do it, the experts said not to do it, the market said not to do it, and my internal gut instinct said fuck it, and let's jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down. I will tell you that I think a key to my success is my ability to execute and just not sit on something and think about it. And I will tell you that the mistake that we all make, especially as we become more successful, is we get more hesitant to do anything, right? And myself included. So Spring Benson's a really good friend of mine, and we're doing a lot of cool stuff together. And one of the things that I really love about her and why we click is because she's all about jumping out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down. And I had kind of gotten away from that to a point of, I was moving more into this mode of everything's got to be right before we make the next move.
Right.
Where I used to just be like, make the move, make the mistake, and then we'll correct in real time. So I think that, one of the biggest things that pains me, and I'll give you a couple examples. Like somebody will reach out to me and they'll say, Brandon, I'll invest with you when. I will go to the gym with you when. I will coach with you when. I will join EXP when. And it's like, well, what, there's never going to be a perfect time. Conditions are never going to be perfect. And I think when you sit around and you wait for the win, you actually miss and lose a ton of opportunity. So I think that there was definitely no fear, or there's definitely fear all the time. But I also think that the thing that I always combated it with is that win, lose, or draw, I just always believed that I was going to come out on top. And I just think you got to have that mentality. And so that just always kept me in execution.
The thing about when is, I always thought about this, and I learned this from Tina Davidson, who is the wife of Rick Davidson, former CEO of Century 21. And she said, we always wait for the wins. Right?
Yeah.
I want to help you get to the wins. I want you to say, instead of saying when I get there, I want you to get there. I want to help you with that when. I want to get you there. Is there a quick way to get there? Is it just mindset? Is it just your head? Is it just your mentality? Is it just attitude?
So and that's a great question. So here's what I think. It's like when you're presented with anything that arises in fear, you go to two places and both are what ifs. What if it works? What if it doesn't?
Yeah.
And where most human beings live is the what if it doesn't. And what I will say is that the way you've been raised, your parents, your environment, whatever, whether you know this or not, you're mentally to this point in your life, you've been programmed. And a lot of us have the wrong programming. So you kind of have to break that. So a lot of times, if you want to be an entrepreneur and do big shit, you've got to be fucking nuts. Like you've got to be a maniac. Like you have to, because you have to envision something in your mind that does not exist with in immeasurable odds against you. And the only thing that gets you there is mindset, piss, and vinegar of your own belief system to get you there. And if you think about how freaking nuts that is, most human beings just can't stomach that, right? So the point that I always go to is instead of the what if it doesn't work, mine is what if it does work, right? And that's just the shift that I had to make a long time ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But most human beings have the what if it doesn't work. But the what if it doesn't work is based on the programming that's in your head that you've grown up around, that you've been around the whole thing, which is not necessarily real. It's all bullshit. And so once you realize that if you want to break that mold and do anything special, you got to be a little bit nuts. And to be a little bit nuts, you've got to be willing to bet on yourself when the odds are completely against you.
Is it, what if it does work? And I've heard this before, right? So is it about what we've grown up with? Like when we were younger, and there's a book out there called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it talks about the agreements that we've made in our lives because of how we grew up. I'm impeccable with my word. I don't take things personally. I don't make assumptions, and I always do my best. The Four Agreements, right? And it has a lot to do with what if it doesn't work, because we're always told, don't do this, don't do that, don't touch the stove, wet paint. What do you want to do when you see a sign that says wet paint? You want to fucking touch it, because you want to see if it's wet. So, but what if it does work, man? So the thought process is, what if it doesn't work? You think about, oh shit, I'm not going to have money to pay rent. I'm not going to have food. I'm going to embarrass my family. I'm going to do all these other things. As you can see, I've thought this shit through. But what if it does work? Right. What's the difference in your head, Brandon? What are those thoughts?
The thing about it is that obviously, I'm a believer in what exists in your mind will exist in your life if you believe it, right? So think about this, right? You've seen me speak now twice, and I'm not trying to be narcissistic or sound this the wrong way, but I'm really good on stage, right? Like I'm good on stage, but I wasn't at one time, right? So I had this wild ass idea like 5 years ago. I'm going to be a national keynote speaker, and I'd never keynoted. Do you know what I mean? But what had to exist in my mind before I even started? I had to believe that I was that before I did. And I mean, I just think this is a testament to, right? Like I went from not being a speaker on stage to being a national keynote speaker, getting paid a lot of money to speak on stage and speaking on the biggest stages in the United States. And, there was a lot of what ifs, right? But I was like, but what if it does work? Do you know what I mean? But I had to believe that in my head well before it existed in my life. And then also think about, I had to go through the failures of going on stage and not being really good. Right. And that shit was painful. Do you know what I mean? And like knowing that you bombed and knowing that you sucked. But the only way that I was going to get better is by going through that fucking short-term pain. Do you know what I mean? So that's the other thing too, that I think the problem of the what if is that, so let's just say you do decide it and you're like, I'm going to go do this. Then you get hit with the pain and then you're like, nah, I'm out. Right. Because you know what I mean? Like as human beings, we are spoiled to get away from pain. Like we can get away from it in the world that we live in. And I'll tell you, I'm a firm believer of this. Like the amount of money in your bank account is directly tied to your pain tolerance. You got a high pain tolerance, you're gonna make a lot of money.
So this can also be related to what if, when all this other stuff, to the person that has the pain of just picking up the call to make a lead gen call.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's not what if it does work. It's these people are going to yell at me. They're going to think I'm an asshole. They're going to think all these other things. They're going to think I'm bothering them. Is there a switch? Is there some one thing that you can say or think aside from changing your entire mindset of that fear and that judgment problem? Is there something that helped you get through it, or did you already have it?
So it's a good question. So I can answer this. I can answer two ways. So for me, initially, it was the outcome outweighed the short-term pain. The outcome was financial freedom. The outcome was developing a skill where I know I could wake up tomorrow and just go make money, right? So, however, the learning lesson in that was I thought outcome was destination. So if I make a certain amount of money, if I do this or I do that, it's gonna be what makes me happy. What I've actually learned at this stage in my life is the person that I become chasing the outcome is the actual win. And the end of it, the trophy, is a reminder in how we keep score, but who I became in the process is actually the win, right? So for me now, with that mentality, I don't mind doing the work because I know the person that I'm becoming doing the work is the actual win, right? I'm going to get the trophy, but I realize that the trophy is no longer the destination. It's the person that I become chasing the trophy, right? So for me, it was, it's still wild as shit to me that people won't do activity that makes them money. I don't get or understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like that shit blows my mind because what's the alternative? You don't make money and you go work for somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not shitting on a 9 to 5, but like when you have the ability to become an entrepreneur and make whatever you want and control your own destiny, why in the hell would you not do that? And all you have to do is 2 to 3 things really well every single day. We're not building fucking rockets, and you can make unlimited income. It's wild to me that correlation is not there for most people.
Did you set up strict plans, or did you set up any kind of a plan as you started out as the investor, then the realtor, then the team leader, then the
yeah. But I will say this. I will say that in my opinion, plans are overrated if you can't lock into daily consistency, right? So if you do a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan, but you can't do the 2 to 3 things every day to get you a win, your plan's worthless, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, we always had the North Star and we always had the things that we were going towards and pointing towards. But I knew the only way that I was going to get there was my ability to lock in on a daily basis and just have an unreasonable, ruthless amount of consistency. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And if I wasn't willing to do that, then the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan is dog shit. Because if I can't do the stuff day to day, I'm not going to get there.
I had my own brokerage. I worked at coaching agents, mentoring agents now. And the difficult part is to understand, there's got certain things that have to be done, right? And I've said recently to a lot of people that I work with is, yes, there are these things you have to do, the calls, the communication, the contacts, the conversations, etc. The whole idea is the outcome of the deals, of the transactions, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we really care about, really. So if you work out a way that, all the metrics that I'm talking about, the metrics really don't mean shit if you're getting there anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree with you. John Cheplak, as an example, I think, he's one of the best he's one of the best examples just in general of a lot of things. But,
yeah, agreed.
One of the things that John taught me a long time ago was like, your business plan doesn't mean shit if you got shitty habits. And John would tell you this is that all he cared about every day, and to this day, all he cares about is getting better. Right. And a lot of the stuff that he's doing now is just because he was ruthlessly committed to being the best version of himself. And he would probably even tell you that for a lot of the stuff that he's doing, he didn't have a business plan for it. All he did was, I'm going to be really good at what I am. Right. Yeah. And I'm just going to consistently improve and get better. And so, again, I think that we can get lost in the sauce of a business plan or this or that. And then I think it also puts you in a situation where it gives you excuses not to do the work because the goalpost is so far away. where if you were just like, look, I'm going to master 20 conversations a day, dropping 3 things on social media, whatever it is that are the quick win, because you've got to win every day. Like your mind has to feel like, our brains are always scanning our environment to conserve energy and to make you survive. So if you're waking up every day and you're taking an L day in and day out, your brain is running subconsciously telling you, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if you could just, and it can be something simple. I got 1 yes today. Then I got 2 yeses. Then I got 3 yeses, right? You just got to get that short-term win, and the short-term win stacks to long-term wins. And that's how you achieve that business plan.
I'm a man of worry, and I start thinking about that. And then when I start getting the wins, it's one after the other after the other. And that's the other thing that a lot of people need to understand too with what you're doing, is that you build momentum that way, right?
100%. Well, and then your belief system changes, because
Right.
you know what I mean? There's shit that I'm doing, the version, like the version that I'm sitting in today, the problems I have, I used to pray for. Do you know what I mean? Like the shit that I'm sitting in, the shit that I'm dealing with that's going south, 5 years ago, I would have prayed to be in this position. Do you know what I mean? And there was a time in my life when some of the things that I'm doing now, I didn't think were attainable or achievable. Do you know what I mean? And so, but I only got there from small, consistent wins, but also at the same time thinking big enough that what I'm doing is not my final destination. I'm always going to do something bigger.
But okay, so you didn't think they were achievable or attainable, but you did them. What pushed you over the line to actually do it when you thought it wasn't achievable?
So
people don't get, because that's where they stop. And
yeah. So this is another thing that if you remember, I talked about this at spring break. This is kind of a realization I've had recently, is like the biggest dream in your world will dominate everything you do. And if you are driven, you have a good opportunity and possibility to get there. And the reason why I say that is because you should always audit, is that what you really want, or is it big enough? Because when I got there, it wasn't big enough. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so it's like climbing the mountain and you get to the top of it and you're like, yeah, I'm excited, but I feel like I need to go climb another one. And so I think the process is that, it almost becomes like it can become second nature in a habit, where I was just so ingrained in my habits every single day that's kind of what willed me, and got me there. And if you really think about it, and you think about human psychology and behavior, to be the elite of the elite, it doesn't take, like, it's nowhere near what people think. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just being consistent and being consistent over long periods of time. And so the reason why I say I always believe that it's possible is because most people that you compete with will not do it. So, the field's not crowded at the top of the mountain. It's just all of us who are just willing to consistently do it and be consistent. And I think that's always why I never stop or give up when shit gets sideways, is because I just go to and think, I know most people I compete with will stop right here, and I'm not willing to. And I know I'll surpass them if I keep going.
So there's a lot of people that set goals. As you've set goals, you get to certain levels and you keep going, what's the next level? But they set a goal and they get stuck at that goal and saying, okay, wow, shit, I did that. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example how I'm guilty of that, right? So I remember over the years, I've always run. I stopped for a while. I started again recently, but I've always run. And my goal was, I'm not the fastest runner in the world. My goal was a 9-minute mile in 3 miles, right? So 27 minutes. And I remember getting there several times, and then all of a sudden, I couldn't even get close to it after that, and I didn't understand why. And then I just realized that I didn't have the next goal.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You lost purpose.
Are you setting the goal before you reach the goal, or are you setting it after you reach the goal?
So,
question, but I don't know.
No, so it's a great question. So here's what I look at it as. I feel like I will never reach the destination anymore. And that's intentional. So now I just have targets, right? So the destination for me is I want to consistently build every day, build companies and things that I like, and build the best version of myself. I don't ever think I'll be done. There are targets along the way that help me keep score. But, I've had friends that have exited companies and lost their purpose and got ungodly money. 3-4 generations from now, their families will still have money, and they became depressed. Do you know what I mean? I've had more than one friend get there and fucking commit suicide. And what I think is when you are seriously driven, you can never lose purpose. And the moment you lose purpose, you're going to have problems. And if you think about elderly people at the end of their life, when they think about like when people stop working, how much they decline mentally. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen it. You've watched it happen. I watched it happen with my family. And I think part of it because work and activity is a part of your purpose as a human being, right? I think inherently we are all built to build things in our life. And think about, again, going back to COVID, how many people committed suicide, got depressed, right? Had mental health issues. Why? Because we took their purpose away as a world. We said, you got to sit your ass in the house. You can't be around other people. So I think for me, like it's targets now, but I don't have a final destination anymore, because I think that what I've learned is as I hit the destinations, if I tie my outcome so much to that destination, it actually has the ability to put you in the opposite direction emotionally, where it's now that's just a target. Yeah, I want to get that target, but that's not the final destination because I don't want to lose my purpose.
I tell you that I want to get into something else, but I've just got to just say that this is partially my fear of what I have as the age thing is can I keep going on? What's going to push me? And because I had my brokerage, I walked away from that because it didn't satisfy me. And I've been searching for something, and I think I've got it. I think I know where I'm going now. And so that's why I'm starting from scratch. I'm 67, starting from scratch. What the fuck is that? What's that about?
Well, it's giving you but so the cool thing about that, it's giving you new purpose, and purpose, I just think is the driving force of life, man. Like, if you have purpose, causes people to do insane things in a good way that other human beings can't fathom. Do you know what I mean? And if you ever look at anyone that's done anything of substance in this world, they had this driving fucking purpose force behind them that, again, 3 guys in the garage could beat an Amazon or a Google or an Apple because their driving purpose and their focus was so deep that that's what they lived and breathed every day. And I think that's what's driving you right now and why it's working. And for anybody that's listening is, the day you lose purpose is the day you start dying. And that's why you can never lose purpose. And if the one you're hanging on to right now is not the right one, go find another one.
So that brings me over to your change over the past year. And for me as well, your transition into EXP. And I just want to say that one of the things, the reason I walked away from my brokerage was I was doing everything wrong. I couldn't find people that I wanted to work with or that wanted to work. And what I found here, especially working with Align as well, with Brett Sikora and the people I work with on a day-to-day basis, is everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to help each other. Everybody wants
to win.
It's just, I mean, the Glenn and Leo and these are amazing fucking people. Brandon Brittingham, amazing people.
Dude, right now, today, there's a guy in my office right now on the other side of this wall who's from California, who's in EXP, who's in Expand Investing with me, came to DC and drove down here this morning to see my operation and to kick it with me. And he's from LA. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. It just is. And I don't know how to explain it rather than be giddy about it, but I want to ask you about your transition and get into Expand Investing. We've been talking about investing, and I want to talk about Expand Investing because it's a really great program that you've got going. But you made the change over, and if anyone watches you on Instagram or wherever you're posting, where you're posting is they're going to understand it. Talk to
Yeah.
me a little bit about the reason for your transition so that message can really get out there.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things, right? So I've known Leo for 20 years. I always believe in who the room you're in and who you align yourself with is a big deal. Leo's one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. I know who he is as a person, not as a business person. I know who he is as a human being. And he's somebody that I would always want to follow. And then, just the flip side of this is, we were the franchise player of where we came from. I could have gone anywhere.
Right.
And nothing against anyone else. We are set up very different. I have a CFO, I have a whole accounting department. I got multiple people in C-suite positions in all of our companies. We really researched this, and we researched it not just logistically, but financially. My CFO went through every company's financials that we looked at, and she came back and she said, hands down, EXP is the best company financially and the best company financially sound. And then, across the board, just looking at everything, they just had everybody beat in spades. And again, this is not, I'm not trying to recruit anybody. I'm just telling you guys that, and if you know me prior to EXP, I was a franchise player of where I was at, and I could have gotten anything. And being honest, I took less money coming here than I could have gotten probably anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
From a compensation, setup standpoint of everybody's on the same plan at EXP. Like there's no,
right.
it's not a special, I'm on the same deal as everybody else. Right.
Right.
So that's another thing for people. If you're out there listening, is I could have gone anywhere and gotten whatever I want. And the upside for so many reasons was so great here that once I fully grasped and understood it, I would be fucking stupid not to come.
It's an investment in life rather than just an investment of dollars and cents.
You got it.
And when we talk about investment, you started Expand Investing at EXP. Talk to me about Expand Investing. It just seems like such a great program. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So same thing, there's so many people in our industry that's uneducated, and my mission in real estate, one of my missions is to teach agents and team leaders and brokers not to be relying on commission for the rest of their life.
Right.
And they got a front row seat to actually become wealthy. But again, they have this identity and this fear thing that prevents them from doing it. So what I've done is operationalize teaching you how to be successful in real estate investing. I've done it with some of the top real estate teams and brokers and agents in the United States. I brought that to EXP for the same reason, to teach the EXP community how to do this. And it's just not as difficult as you would ever think that it is. And we did it specifically so we could show them how to go out and do it. And we got a lot of people in the program successful already.
So how does one get involved in Expand Investing?
So you can go into Learn World's EXP University and get there that way. You can reach out to me, just the same, and we'll plug you in.
Do you need to be with EXP to go into Expand Investing?
No, we've got multiple people in Expand Investing that are not with EXP. And that was actually something that I had worked out with EXP up front of, I want this to be agnostic and let anybody in from anywhere that wants to be part of it. And so we have.
Hey man, I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast. There's a couple of things. One thing I missed at the beginning, I'm sorry for missing this, Brandon, in the beginning, was I ask everybody this question. It's called Real Estate Talk TGIF. I always ask people, what does TGIF stand for? What do you think?
Well, the moniker I know is Thank God It's Friday.
Okay. So it's a little bit different. You're really close, but it's Thank God It's Finale. I forgot to bring that up earlier, but here it is,
Good enough.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I rarely forget that, but I did with you. I was so excited to have you. I'm so excited that you're here and that you went through this stuff. You spent the time with me. I have two things, and then we'll be done. One is a question. How can I help you grow your business?
It's, the thing is that I always come from abundance. So I never ask anybody for anything. Right. Yep. So it's, I don't know how to answer that because I a lot of times don't know how to ask for help. Obviously I have coaches that I ask for help, but a lot of times I just come from abundance, man. Just, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to say, what I do, help me any way you can.
Awesome. That's great. Hey man, look, you know what? Everything I said, I believe and mean everything I say about you being a great human being. And that's how I also promote this broadcast today. And I want to thank you for being the person that you are and the things that you've done. And I'll just say the other thing is the flowers that you've given. So, you know, I've seen you speak, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I want to thank you so much. And just like anything else, just like every other broadcast, it is special because not everybody has them, is the hat. So,
yeah. Well, I'm a fan of the hat, so thank you.
So, yeah, it's going to come out to you. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast. Next week, we're going to continue the investing part of it. We have Encore Kapoor coming on to talk about wholesaling, talk about investing. He's with the Ventry team. We'll have him next week. Brandon's Instagram is on the screen. We have his contact information scrolling on the bottom as well. At least it was. Brandon, just stay on for a second as we go out. Everybody, thank you so much. We will see you next week. Looking forward to it. On our way to 7 years in a couple of weeks. Hit it, Nelson.